Good morning. My name is Selma Fuseni, and I'm here with the Stamford High School Roundtable. And today I'll be interviewing mayoral candidate running unaffiliated, Bobby Valentine. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so I guess we can jump right into it. Our first question. We heard that the Stanford's Teachers Union recently endorsed you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, what do you think it is about your campaign that prompted the Teachers Union to endorse you as opposed to your opponent?
Well, I believe that they understand properly that I'm a product of the Stamford school system. I went to Ryle School, Clunan School, Ripwalm High School. None of them are really in existence now, but the fact that I know the turf, the fact that I see the Board of Education being a place that the teachers and the parents need to have a voice as well as the students. And I think that differentiated me from my opponent.
In a recent debate, you mentioned that you were planning on including teachers in the decision-making process as one of your campaign objectives. I wondered if you could talk about this a little bit and what would you do differently to make sure teachers were more involved?
Well, communication is the key to any successful organization, and the city needs better communication. And in our education system, the students need to be heard. The best way for them to be heard is through the teachers. The best way for the teachers to be heard would be for a voice, which I would have on the Board of Education. I have a seat there, but I don't have a voting seat. But when they have meetings and they're making decisions that affect the students and the teachers directly, I think that they need input, and they also need transparency, someone bringing the messages back to them.
Okay. And as you know, Stanford is an incredibly diverse community. Do you have any plans for addressing racial equity in Stamford Public Schools, for making sure that every student has similar opportunities?
Well, first, I'd like to see the teachers and the people who work in the schools as adults, if you will, mentors, if you will, teachers, to look more like our community, to hire people who are reflective of this diverse population that we have in our schools, and then to understand the needs of our many diverse communities and ethnicities that we have in our city. It's not just the focus of the people who speak Spanish, or not just the focus of people who look a little different, but there are many people who are in fact transitioning into our city, transitioning into our school system, and they need to be represented as we go forward.
Okay, it's safe to say that the biggest issue facing our school system over the last 2 years has been the coronavirus pandemic. We'd like to get your thoughts on two of the issues related to that, being masks and vaccines. Currently, teachers are required to be vaccinated or submit a weekly testing, and both students and teachers are required to wear masks in a majority of situations. And it looks as if children as young as 5 will be able to get vaccinated in the near future. In light of that, we'd like to know, what is your position on mask mandates, and separately, your position on vaccine mandates for Stanford Public School students?
Well, you know, when this pandemic broke out, I was the director of athletics at Sacred Heart University. We have over 1,000 student athletes, over 100 coaches and administrators, and I was the executive director of the entire department. Therefore, I was responsible for the first step we took to try to halt this spread of this terrible virus. The implementation of social distancing and masking and making sure that the teams were safe in competition and in practice, understanding that quarantining was necessary when in fact someone was contracted the virus. And along the way, all of the rules changed. You know, and as a leader, I had to change with those rules. And I believe these mandates that we see right now are going to change as we move forward. And before I become the mayor, which will be in December, beginning of December, there'll be a new set of rules that I will have to understand with my health director, with the directives from the city and the state, as well as the nation, so that we protect our community. The main concern of a mayor is to keep the community safe, and I'll make that right decision at the right time.
Okay, so do you think that there's any chance in the mask mandate being continued then?
I would think there's a chance of it if, in fact, the numbers start to go up, or that there's absolute necessity and proof that that's what we need to keep our community safe.
Cool. And how about a vaccine mandate?
I think it's the same on a vaccine mandate. You know, there are individual rights to protect the individual, and vaccines are to protect the individual, but it's also, they're there to protect those that they're around. So we must understand what that fine line is in governance to make sure that we come together as a community, that the major need we need is trust in leadership, that the leadership is making a decision that's based on facts and great data and great science that is being implemented onto the population of the city, not just what one person thinks or one party thinks or one health director thinks, but what the consensus of opinion of the best and brightest are, and then we move forward.
All right, thank you. Your opponent, Caroline Simmons, often criticizes your handling of the mold issue in Stamford schools while you were Director of Public Safety. Is there anything you'd want to say to respond to this criticism?
Yeah, that she was totally misinformed, and when she got the right information, then in fact in 2009 there was a report that was put out, and it wasn't about mold, it was about all the schools, and that the one school that found some mold while I was Director of Public Safety was taken care of, actually the year after I left as Director of Public Safety, but it was taken care of and remediated. And just to put things in perspective so you understand that while you've been in school, there has been a mold situation in all of our schools. And never has the Director of Public Safety, Ted Giankowski, the person who took my place as Director of Public Safety over 10 years ago, never has he been criticized for the mold situation. So uninformed, negative campaigning, very, very disappointed politicking in that kind of thought that is out there. Because it's, like I said, she wasn't in this community when I was the Director of Public Safety, so she really has no idea what was going on other than something that she was told. I know what went on. The mayor knows what went on. The Director of Health, Ian Fountain, knows what went on. And what went on was it was handled perfectly at that time, and then continued later on to have water infiltration in some of our schools.
Okay. Thank you. And a follow-up to that, well, I mean, I guess you sort of addressed it in that, given the mold situation, what would you do differently, I guess? It was just a follow-up.
Well, that it's not corrected is not acceptable.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, it has been around, and what we needed the most was funding. And, you know, our representatives went to Hartford with an emergency plan that we needed emergency money in 2018 to correct this mold situation. And we got $0. So somewhere along the line, the job hasn't been done to get the money, get the funding, and correct the situation. And as a leader of our community, that will be a priority, to get that done and stop waiting for Hartford to come and save the day.
Thank you. Before you go, is there anything else you'd like for your voters to know in regards to your plans for Stamford Public Schools?
Well, yeah, I'd like to change the perception of our schools. The perception is that everything is bad about our schools. Our buildings are old, that's true, but our teachers are great, our students are great. We graduate our students to some of the finest colleges all around the country each and every year. So we need to get the perception out that inside of our buildings, we're doing a pretty darn good job and should be recognized for that. And outside our buildings, what they look like, they need to look better so that we have safe and healthy situations for our students to learn in and our teachers to teach in.
Thank you. And just as a final question, the Roundtable was doing a bit of research, and we found that you invented the sandwich wrap. Can you talk a little bit about
How could that be? Yeah. I don't know if it's an invention. It's more of a creation, isn't it? You know, food in the kitchen is a creation. I happened to be cooking back in the 80s in my restaurant that I opened in 1980. And there was a request for a club sandwich. And we did not have any sliced bread to make a club sandwich. And so this tortilla shell that was sitting in front of me, a 10-inch tortilla shell, that I was cutting into 4 squares to put in the deep fryer to make nacho chips, looked like it could solve the problem. So I took all the ingredients of a club sandwich, the mayonnaise and the ham and the turkey and the bacon and the lettuce and the tomato, and I put it in that tortilla and I rolled it up, and then I put a couple slices of American cheese over the top of it and put it up under the salamander and melted the cheese so that the wrap would stay together. I cut it in 3 places and I told my waitress to serve it as a club Mexican style, which became a very popular item on our menu in 1981. And when the Wall Street Journal decided to research it all around the country to see if there was ever an American sandwich that was wrapped on a menu in a restaurant before 1981, they could not find it and said that I was the creator.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time,
You're welcome.
Mr. Valentine.
Thank you.